So, some more big updates in the boring drama that surrounds Jadon Sancho, with Jadon Sancho and his team speaking out, giving his side of the story and why he won't apologise. There's also been some updates and developments in the Antony situation. Could he be back soon, or could the situation be about to get a lot worse? We will discuss that. And there's also been a shock new midfield target that's been linked with a potential move to United. However, it's come from Marca, not the most reliable source, so I would take that report with a pinch of salt, and we'll get into that one at the end. We're going to start by getting into this story on Sancho, getting into the latest on the Sancho situation. So, one of Sancho's representatives, or a source very close to Sancho, has gone to the media and discussed why Sancho won't apologise and his side of the story. Now, Sancho himself knows he can't speak out, so he's essentially got kind of someone to speak out for him and go to iNews, who are now reporting, because of this, there remains the feeling that the relationship between Sancho and Ten Hag cannot be repaired because neither is prepared to accept blame. iNews' statement is, from what they're hearing, Sancho and Ten Hag, none of them are willing to accept any blame, and that's why it cannot be prepared. Basically, stubbornness. But Ten Hag is the manager, Sancho's the player. Sancho's the one that's got to apologise to Ten Hag. Now, what was interesting is insiders close to Sancho spoke out and said this. They said, according to insiders, it was said a return for Sancho is a distant dream as he's refusing to say sorry. He believes he's within his rights to voice his disapproval at Erik ten Hag questioning his commitment in training. It is also noted that he believes that if he was simply to apologise now and admit the manager was right, it would undermine going public with his views and invite similar treatment in the future. So it's said that Sancho believes that he is right, and that's why he won't apologise, and he thinks he's within his rights not to apologise if he thinks he is right for Erik ten Hag questioning his commitment to training. It's said that Sancho now thinks if he's to apologise now, his whole public statement is completely undermined where he says his views. And the thing is, Ten Hag doesn't want Sancho to apologise for, feeling that he was training harder than Ten Hag thought he was. Ten Hag wants Sancho to apologise for the statement. So I think there's a lack of communication here, because Sancho doesn't want to apologise because he's like, that undermines my statement and why should I apologise? I think I've been training fine. It's not that Ten Hag wants an apology for that. He doesn't want an apology for that. He wants you to come to training and work 10 times harder and prove him wrong. What Ten Hag wants is an apology for going out publicly and saying you were being scapegoated. He wants an apology for you going and saying things publicly, not your opinion. You might feel that you were training well enough. You don't apologise for that. You just need to prove him wrong by working hard in training. He wants an apology for his statement. And what Sancho needed to do was just to work super hard in training, get his head down and prove the manager wrong, rather than saying he's being scapegoat. Because when Ronaldo got forced to train with the academies, it was resolved in 1-2 days because Ronaldo went and did what the bigger person was meant to do, the mature person was meant to do as well. So yeah, I think it's, for me, I just read that and I was like, what? It was also said as well, an insider for iNews discussed the potential concerns for Sancho, and they said he is a great player that doesn't go away, so he'll have offers in January if we are where we are now, with first team football at United a distant dream. So one of Sancho's reps has basically said to them that, if we are where we are now, because he's a great player, he's going to have loads of offers in January. And I think people are feeding that into his head. I think whoever's close to Sancho, whoever's kind of feeding and advising Sancho in this situation has got it wrong. I think they're feeding things into his head. Don't apologise, you're right. Don't back down. And it's like, sometimes you just need to. The right wing spot's there. You're going to waste 4 months of your career again this season. Just apologise, get on with it, work hard, and try and prove them wrong on the pitch. You can only do your talking on the pitch at the end of the day in football. Because I think Sancho will be quite surprised with his 350 grand a week wages. I don't think many top teams will be coming in for him, especially because a lot of top teams will see that he acted like this at United. There was attitude problems at Dortmund with him being late. Southgate said there were attitude problems, and there was also problems at Man City. I think Sancho, and maybe that's just me, I don't know what your thoughts are, let me know in the comments, but I think Sancho could be quite surprised at the limited options coming in for him as well. It was also said, but clubs need to see something that would encourage them to bring him to the club, and talent alone won't get him a move. And it was said, we are all aware of how this looks on him, and the longer United leave him in the cold, the lower his appeal drops, regarding Sancho issues as well. Because, as stated in the report, Sancho doesn't really have the best reputation. It was said reports also claim timekeeping has been a problem for Sancho when on England duty. He has not been called up by Southgate for any squad since 2021. I understand one particular problem with Sancho is around sleep, or therefore caused partly by playing computer games at night, something several of his clubs have noticed. United have stood by Ten Hag over his forthright stance on the player's attitude, and club sources insisting the Dutchman has the backing of the director of football, John Murtough, and CEO Richard Arnold. Senior players in the squad have done all they can to persuade Sancho to knock on the manager's door. The feeling among teammates is one of bewilderment, given how reconcilable they feel the whole thing is, which is true. Basically, they just go into detail of how Southgate dropped Sancho, and when Sancho wasn't playing, obviously Southgate actually said that Sancho was a problem when he wasn't playing, in terms of affecting the morale around the camp, and he's not really been selected since. It was also things like him turning up to training late or having a lack of sleep from playing games late at night. And this seems to be a problem. And they're basically just saying, the teammates have gone to Sancho and said to apologise. It's such an easy thing to reconcile about. And the teammates seem to be shocked. The coaching staff seems to be shocked. And Ten Hag now wants, him to apologise to the teammates and everyone, not just him now as well. And it's such a tiny situation. And I think Roy Keane summed up the whole situation perfectly. It's such an easy thing to just make up and get over. Like Ronaldo was exiled and then he made up with Ten Hag, got over it, and then not long later he did an interview. But Ronaldo was a different situation. Do you know what I mean? For me, I think this is silly, and as long as he doesn't end up going on Piers Morgan. But I think the United squad seem to be pretty fed up with this whole situation. Another interesting thing is it seems that Sancho's representatives have gone to sort of the PFA and maybe put a complaint in, because the PFA actually contacted United and stressed that they're required to provide an adequate standard of training for Sancho. But Man United believe they respected this by having a specialist coach work with him. So the PFA did intervene and say, you've got to prove you're giving Sancho a certain level of training. And United said, we have. The Disco Mirror also said that United are confident they haven't broken any rules following their decision to have Sancho train alone. They continue to wait an apology for him. And then Rob Dawson did also say that Eric Ten Hag has the full backing of the club regarding the Sancho situation, including Richard Arnold and John Murtough as well. Legal implications were considered. So even though the PFA has spoken to United just to make sure that they are treating Sancho well and all of that, Manchester United are saying, look, we've provided him his own coach, we've given him this, we've given him that. Manchester United seem more than confident that they've done what is required as well, and they haven't done anything wrong in that situation. Rob Dawson also recently added today that Eric Ten Hag remains concerned about the attitude of some of his players, and Jadon Sancho's punishment is seen as a warning that there will be no room for those who do not pull in the same direction. And it's essentially said that Eric Ten Hag is going strict on Sancho, like he went strict on Ronaldo last year, like he dropped Rashford for being 40 seconds late and dropped Garnacho for being late. He's being strict essentially to set standards. Manchester United have had a massive problem over the years with player power. It's been a big problem. We've got a lot of players that don't work super hard, don't have the best attitude. And the reason Ten Hag is really strict is because he basically wants to set an example to the rest of the squad of basically saying, look, I'm strict. If you undermine me, if you don't start working hard, if you don't start reaching the standards, this is what will happen to you. And I think that needs to be done because player power in the past has been such a big issue. Now, that is enough of the Sancho thing because it's taken us 8 minutes to talk about that. I do want to get into the Antony news. Now, there's nothing crazy on Antony. We obviously know he returned to England yesterday to speak to the Greater Manchester Police. It's now been said that Gabriella, who accused Antony, is now expected to fly to England from Brazil next week to be interviewed by the Greater Manchester Police over her claims as well. So obviously Gabriella's also going to be interviewed. I think there's going to be interviews with Gabriella and Antony. But the fact that he was pretty much released in Brazil and not charged, from what we've seen, there doesn't seem to be enough evidence to probably charge him. And I wouldn't be surprised if Antony came back in the following weeks. In all honesty, I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that's dropped soon and he returns soon, because it's very different to the Mason situation, because again, there's no charges, there's no real investigation actually ongoing. It's just like a few he said, she said conversation things. And I think 2 of the witnesses have dropped out of 3, or two of the 3 people that actually started accusing him of things, I think have pretty much dropped out as well. So it seems to be going well from his side. But again, we don't know the full story. And I don't really like talking about it until we get some information in. And then the last story that's come out today is that a 20-year-old Valencia midfielder in Xavi Guerrero is a major target for United. He's set to have been watched every game by United. Newcastle also interested. So United are looking at this player, and I'm sure we are looking at some young midfielders out there. But the player himself said that he's not moving anytime soon. I think this, again, I don't think this would be January. I think this would be next summer. But again, we've been linked to quite a few young midfielders, and I think United haven't chosen what young midfielder they want yet. I think, you know, we've been linked to Oscar Zambrano, we've been linked to João Neves, we've now been linked to Javi. I think United haven't chosen a young midfielder yet, but I get the impression they're scouting a lot of midfielders in the age sort of 20 to 21, 22 age bracket. And I think sort of nearer March, April, we'll sort of get an indication of who that's going to be. I remember Rasmus Højlund, I was doing a video on him sort of March, April time, because we've been linked to a lot of strikers, and in sort of March, April time, it seemed to be Kane and Højlund most prominently. So I think we'll get an indication of who that will be sort of nearer next summer. Anyway, everybody, thank you for watching today's news roundup. Please do smash the like button. Please do subscribe. See you next time, and bye.